Hello everyone, Chris Murray here to give a tutorial on how to use the KrisOnStrings Unity Mobile RPG Script Kit asset. After following this tutorial, you will have the beginnings of an RPG and a good understanding of how to use each of the components of the script kit. The purpose of this kit is to provide the back-end data storage and processing for turn-based RPGs. It is intended for game developers without much programming experience, as well as programmers looking for assets to speed along their development. There will be 3 sections to this tutorial. 1. Use the content creator to get some content for our RPG going. 2. Hook up the content to the example scenes. And 3. Directly modify the content text files in streaming assets to create content faster. Let's get started. I've already launched Unity and created a new project for this tutorial. I selected a 2D project because this will be a 2D game, but the script kit will work for both 2D and 3D games. Also, I've copied all of my assets over. I downloaded the graphics, sound, and music from opengameart.org. The sprite sheets I got from the Universal LPC Sprite Sheet Character Generator. I highly recommend both of these for game designers to help get their games off the ground. Now, the project opens with a brand new scene, but we're going to use one from my examples. In the project pane, expand the RPG script kit and examples, go to scenes, and here we have the main scene. Let's double click and open that up. We're going to add this to the game, File, Build Settings, Add Open Scenes. So this main scene is where the player is going to be spending most of their time when not in combat to manage and upgrade their heroes. Okay, next, let's go back to the RPG script kit, scenes, not example scenes, just scenes, and loading. Okay, this is going to be the scene that will load all of the content into the game. And let's add this. File, Build Settings, Add Open Scenes. Now we also need to drag and drop it up to the top. So this is going to be the very first scene that gets loaded by Unity. Now let's close this and we're going to start creating some content. So right next to it is the Create Content scene. So double click it and we can get started. Note, you do not have to add this as a game or as a scene to the game because the player will not be playing this scene. This scene is just for development. It's used to create content. But as I said before, you can also modify the text files directly to add your content. And I'll go over both methods in this tutorial. Alright, so the load button in the top left will load the currently saved content from the Streaming Assets folder into the game. The Save button will take what's currently in the game and save it into the Streaming Assets folder. And in between we have the message bar. Let's click play to get started. Now I'm going to be making this game from This is going to be based on Pilgrim's Progress, and I've created a game design document here in Examples Documents. And this has all the content that's going to be used for the game. In this video, I'll only create part of the content, but I encourage you to complete the rest of it on your own to get a better understanding of the full features of this kit. Now, back to creating content. We'll start with heroes. We'll create Chris now and Faith later. So we'll go to Heroes, Create New. We change the name to Chris. The class will be DPS. We'll talk about the classes later. And the graphic will be Chris. The graphic is the connection between the front end and the back end. This is the actual name of the game object to connect to the front end that will have all of the animations and graphics and everything that this hero will be attached with. The start tier, again, we'll talk about the tiers later, but basically if it's greater than 0, then the player will start with this hero at the beginning of the game. And then there's also the animation list, EXP lists, and ability list, but we'll leave those blank and tackle those later. Let's make an enemy for Kris to fight against. So we create a new one, and we're going to name him Obstinate. The graphic or game object will also be Obstinate, and the AI will be random. Now, the combat system has an artificial intelligence system ranging from using random abilities on random opponents to using abilities smartly on key opponents. You can check out the manual, which is in RPG Script Kit Documents, right here. You can check out the manual for more information about the artificial intelligence system. And once again, we're going to leave the animation list, EXP lists, and ability list as blank. And we'll come back later. Now the attributes. So this one starts with nothing here, but there are some default attributes or invisible entries. And you can get all of the information about those again in the manual. I'm not going to talk about them here, but we're going to create 3. Strength, which empowers tank abilities. Mind, which empowers support abilities. And Heart, which empowers DPS abilities. Okay. This doesn't have a spell check, so we don't need to worry too much about our spelling. Alright, so that's it for attributes. Let's go on to tiers. This also starts blank, similar to attributes, but unlike attributes, there are no default or invisible entries. Tiers are a system for leveling to support multi-dimensional character progression. There are 2 modes for tiers. 1, upgrading a hero to the next tier will unlock a new set of levels. Or 2, upgrading to the next tier will provide a bonus to attributes and can be done before the max level is reached. In our Pilgrim's Progress game, we're going to have upgrading the hero be bonuses to attributes. So let's get started on this here. We're going to have 5 tiers. And the required shards. So shards represent how much of a hero the player has collected. All heroes start at tier 0, which means they are locked out and the player cannot access them. The exception, of course, are the heroes designated to start at a higher tier that we saw when we were creating our hero Kris. For this game, to unlock a hero, the player needs to collect 5 shards. To get to the next tier, 15 shards, then 50, then 75, and then 100. Since we are providing a bonus to attributes, we're going to set this as well. So the first one is 25% bonus, then a 50% bonus, then a 75% bonus, then a 90% bonus, and then a 100% bonus. So remember, a value of 1 will effectively double the attribute. Alright, now we go on to EXP lists. And we're going to create a new one. Everything that can gain experience and levels in the game uses experience lists to define the level requirements and the attributes. Things that can have different levels and experience are heroes, enemies, items, abilities, and even the player. We'll start by creating an experience list for the player. We'll name it Player EXP List. This is a simple list and is only going to have requirements for the next level. The player can go from level 1 to 5, which means we need 4 requirements for level up. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it will cost experience. We'll talk about some of the different types of requirements later. We can leave type name as it is. And how many experience points? So to get to from level 1 to level 2, we're going to need 10 experience. Then 50, then 100, and then to get to level 5, we need 250. So as the player gains levels, it can also affect their resources, which we're going to talk about later. Okay, so that's it for the player EXP list. Now we're going to create a new experience list, and we're going to call it item EXP list. Items can have levels too. So we're going to have 4 levels for items. So there'll be 3 requirements. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now this time the requirement will be a resource. And we'll talk about resources later, but resources are things like gold. But we're going to name the resource that we're going to create is going to be SP. Alright, so now to get the item to the next level, we will have 20 SP, and then 50 SP, and then 75 SP. Alright, and so that will get our items up levels. We'll create a new one for abilities, so we'll call it Ability EXP List. And all items work on the same EXP list, and all abilities work on the same EXP list. So let's add some requirements here. We're going to have 2 requirements per level here. So it's going to be level 1, 1, 2, 2. So the first one is going to be a resource. Now we can also have items as requirements for leveling up. The resource, we'll use SP again. For the item, we're going to use Spirit Shard. SP and Spirit Shard. So we'll do a value of 10. So 10 SP with 5 Spirit Shards. Then 25 SP with, we'll say, 20 Spirit Shards. Alright, so now with this one we've got multiple requirements per level, and so these requirements will actually be charged to the player for leveling up their ability. Alright, next we get to the hero experience list. Finally, we're going to call it DPS EXP list. We're going to have 10 levels. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 1. So now this is where things can get a little bit cumbersome, and I'll show you how we can speed this up later by modifying the text files directly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're at 10 levels, so that means we don't need the last one. Wait, 1 there. Alright. Let's go ahead. So 1 was here, and normally we'd rename it so that it would go up to the top, but I'm just going to leave it here for now. So level 1 is going to be 50 experience. Level 2 is 80. Level 3 is 130. And then 200, 300, 500, and then we're just going to keep going along this same pattern. 800, 1,300, and 2,000. Okay, so those are the requirements to get up levels for DPS. Now we're going to add some attributes here. Now there's two different sections you'll see. There's base attributes and inc attributes, or incremental attributes. Base attributes are the initial value given to the character at level 1. The incremental attributes will start from the base value and increment for each level that the player gains. So we'll start with the base attributes. We'll say the max, so health max will be 20, and speed will be 50. Crit chance. So this is going to be the glass cannon type of DPS here. So we're going to have a lot of damage. 0.25. A lot of damage, but it's glass. So we'll have armor as 1, but armor pen, focus on the cannon, will be 3. And you can get all of the different definitions for these attributes and what they do in the manual. Here I'm just showing you how to plug these in to make your game. Now we get into the attributes that we created. Strength. We're going to start off at 10 strength. Mind will also be 10, but since we're DPS and heart is a DPS attribute, we're going to start with 15. Now the incremental attributes. For every level, we're going to gain 5 max health. Speed, we're going to get 1 per level. For crit chance, we're going to get 0.012. Well, we'll do 2, that's fine. For crit mult, we'll do 0.025. We'll get 1/2 of an armor per level, but since we're a glass cannon, our armor penetration will be 2 per level. Similar for resist is 0.5, and resistance penetration will be 2. Now for the attributes we created, strength, we're going to get 1 strength per level. Mind, 1 per level. Heart, we're going to get 3. Good. So now what I've done here is created one experience list that defines the requirements and attributes for all of the DPS in this game. You can do something different. You can make an experience list for each hero to make them feel more unique, but that's not what we're doing for this game. Just for time. All right. So we've added the attributes. Now we're done with the experience list for now. We're going to go to abilities. We're going to create a new exciting ability. The basic attack. Basic attack. Very exciting. Now this ability is going to target a single enemy. It's going to be a cooldown. There's different types of abilities like cooldown, charge up, mana, and you can check out the manual for all of the different kinds there. But we're going to use cooldown, and the cooldown is going to be 0, which means this basic attack is going to be up every single turn. We're going to add an effect. This effect will be damage on single enemy. The use will be on hits. We won't have a duration. The apply chance will be 75%. We'll leave the attribute as none. The value is going to be 10 with a variance of 3. This means that we will vary somewhere between 7 to 13 damage base with this attack. That's before any attributes or anything else is added to modify the result of this ability. We'll leave the level requirement as 0 for now. That means, so you can use a level requirement to keep this ability so that only a higher level hero can use it. Description will say deal damage to an enemy. The graphic for this basic attack will be basic attack. Now notice there's no space in here, and there is a space here for the name on basic attack. So this is something where you need to make sure that you keep your naming conventions consistent, otherwise you'll run into issues. So the actual graphic for the icon of this ability this is the name of it, and we'll see that when we hook it up. And this ability is going to be modified by strength, modification of 25%. Alright, now we'll go to resources. So I mentioned resources earlier with the experience lists, and we're going to add 3 resources: energy, our SP or spirit points, and then our IP for incorporeal points. Yeah, I know, not the best name, but hey, this isn't going to be a commercial game. Alright, we'll start off with 50 energy, 100 SP, and 25 IP. Now, energy is going to be a unique resource where it's going to increment over time. So every 300 seconds or every 5 minutes, it's going to increment by 1. Also, we're going to have a maximum. This resource energy won't be able to go higher than 50. So it keeps incrementing every 5 minutes, and then it will cap out at 50. Also, for player levels, when the player gets to higher levels, they can have higher capacities of this resource. So once the player gets to level 2, they have 55. Level 3, they have 60, and so on. So those are the resources. Let's go to equipment slots. And this one's pretty simple. We're just going to add a few standard slots here. Main hand, offhand, head, and body. And this is where you actually equip the items to the heroes, and so you can have we'll see it when we create items next, where the items will be equipped in the different equipment slots that we've created here. But this is all we need to do for equipment slots. So let's go on to making items. Alright, we'll create new, and we're going to create the Sure Shot Bow. It will be in the main hand. Now the category is also going to be bow, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about classes. Classes are used to restrict items to different heroes, and we'll talk about how that works. So this is going to be an equipable type of item. We're not going to have any requirements on the hero for using this for equipping this item. The description will be choice weapon to deal damage from afar. And this is a user visible description that when you're developing your front end, you can display this description with the item. And so with the description, if you want, this could be flavor text about the item if it's some special item, whatever you want here. We're going to add some prices. The prices of the item, we'll see how that works in the store. But we'll have a price for the SP resource. We'll say it's 40. And then IP will be, say it's 10. And we're going to add an effect. This is going to be we're going to use the attribute add on the self. This is going to be passive, meaning it will happen at the start of combat and continue, where heart will be increased by 10. So this will result in increased damage on abilities that use the heart attributes. All right, let's create another item. Spirit Essence. This is going to be a crafting item, so we can leave all the rest of this blank and go straight to the description. Crafting ingredient. Let's add some price to it. SP. We'll say it costs 4 SP. Now we're going to create one more Spirit Shard. And we can leave all of these blank again. We'll say it's used to upgrade abilities. Okay. And give it a price. SP. We'll say it's 15. Alright. So now crafting is one of the staples of many RPGs. So we have a crafting system here. You can create a new recipe. And here we're going to have a recipe for Spirit Shard. So in order to create one Spirit Shard, the player is going to need some Spirit Essence. In fact, it's going to need 5 of them. And if you have a resource, so if you wanted, if you had a gold resource and you wanted this crafting recipe to cost gold, you can add that in here as a resource ingredient. So here we're done with our crafting. So let's go on to classes. Now we talked about classes a little bit, but let me expand on that. So we're going to create the DPS class. Now classes are used to restrict certain items to heroes. So for DPS classes, we're going to say that DPS can use bows and armor. Now you might want to separate armor into light armor and heavy armor if you want for your game. For this game, we're just going to keep it simple. So for example, DPS would not be able to equip a sword because that's not in the list of items for their class. And so that's it for classes. Pretty simple. Quests. We're going to create a new quest. I'm going to call it Level Up. And the accum type. So you can read all about the different types of accumulation in the manual. The quests will require some different things to be accumulated. They could be items, it could be resources, it could be custom events that you want to keep track of. Here we're going to keep track of hero level ups. And in order to satisfy this quest, we're going to have 1 level up. And who are we leveling up? So any hero that's leveled up, so we set all here, and any hero that gets leveled up will satisfy this quest. For recur seconds, we're going to set that to 86,400, which happens to be the number of seconds in a day. So this will be a daily quest. And daily quests can be very useful to help keep your players interested and active in the game. We'll set the description to level up 1 hero. And we'll set no reward because we need to have a reward. We're going to reward them with an item, spirit essence. We'll reward them somewhere between 1 and 3 spirit essence with a 100% chance. Chance is a percentage, so 1 means 100%, or the player is guaranteed to get this reward. Alright, so that'll be our quest. Next up is dialogue. So we go down here and we're going to create a new dialogue. And we're going to call it introduction. Now this will be a login queue type. So there's different types of queues, and you can read about all of them again in the manual. I'm not going to go through every single thing, or this video is going to be very long. But a login queue happens whenever the player logs in to the game. So we're going to set occur once to true. If occur once is set to true, that means that once the player has finished this dialogue, it's not happening again. So if you want your dialogue to happen every time the player logs in, then you can set this to false. Alright, so let's add some dialogue here. We're going to have our speaker be Kris, and he's going to say, "Oh no, this is terrible!" Exclamation. "Where do I turn?" Question mark. Very good. And add a portrait. We're going to add Kris's portrait here. And so this is the actual name of the game object that, or the prefab for Kris's portrait. And this will be an active portrait, meaning this has the focus. Kris is speaking. So portrait, so here we have an XYZ placement for the portrait. We're just going to do, since this is some 2D, we're going to set Kris over on the left-hand side of the screen here. Now, we have to have somebody wondering what Kris is talking about here. So we'll get Evan, and he's going to say, "Why are you..." No, let's make this more old school to be interesting. "Wherefore art thou weeping?" Yes, very good. Now let's add some portraits. We're going to add Kris. He's still there. And then also we're going to add Evan's portrait, except this time Evan will be the active speaker. So we set his portrait to active. Kris is going to stay in the same spot. And Evan will be on the next, or not on the next, but on the other side of the screen, on the right side. Alright, now I'd love to go through this dialogue and find out what happens to Kris and why things are so terrible, but we need to move on. Let's go to the store. Alright, now the store is, so you can see that there's three different sections here. So featured items are items that you want to bring attention to. For example, there might be something new in the store that you want to focus on. So we just created our Sure Shot bow, so let's feature it. Feature the Sure Shot bow. Alright. So now sale items are items that you want to sell at a discount. Maybe you want to encourage players to to purchase items if you have one of your resources. So for example, IP, if you want to make that a resource that the player purchases with real money using some third party or your own custom code, then you can put have different sales so that it'll encourage people to spend their IP and pay real money for your game for in-app purchases. So let's put our Spirit Essence on sale. So the SP, we're going to have 25% off. So this is going to be 25% off the retail price of Spirit Essence. And one thing to note is that you can only have one. So items can have multiple resources or multiple prices attached to them, but only one of those prices can be on sale at a given time. All right, and the store items is just everything that the store will sell, and you can organize it however you want. So we'll have our Sure Shot bow. It will be in the weapons category. We'll have Spirit Essence in the crafting category. We'll have Spirit Shards, well, just Shard, Spirit Shard in the upgrades category. And here's our store. Kind of small, but you can add to it later. Let's move on to level lines. Finally, we get to levels and level lines. So we're going to create a new one. We're going to call it City of Destruction. And initially locked means that the player won't be able to access this level line at the beginning of the game. So one thing that you can do is in the rewards, you can unlock other level lines for the player. So that means that after City of Destruction, we can unlock the next line of levels so that the player can play them. So for City of Destruction, we'll leave initially locked to false. We're going to have 4 levels, and we're going to be original in our names, and we'll kind of call them 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Now, if you beat all 4 of these levels, we're going to reward the player. They're going to be rewarded. We'll give them some XP. That sounds good. So somewhere between, let's say somewhere between 50 and 100 XP, and it's going to be a 100% chance. Now we're going to reward them. Let's reward them with an item, some Spirit Essence. Somewhere between 1 and 3, but they're only going to have a 50% chance to get it. Remember, chance is a percentage. And then we're also going to reward them with shards. Now, we haven't created faith yet, but everybody wants a little bit of faith, right? Got to have a little bit of faith. So we're going to make 1 faith shard guaranteed if you beat this level line. All right, next, let's go and define the levels. All right, so now we can see our levels here, City of Destruction. Now, you don't need to create the levels here. If you want to create more levels, you can do that in the level line. But here you can still rename it if you decide you want to change the name. Now, the cost is the actual cost for the player to play this level. So we're going to have a cost in energy. So the player needs to spend 5 energy if they want to play this level. And the background, so the background and the music will be, we'll talk about the background a little bit later when we're hooking up the level, or when we're hooking up combat. But basically, this allows you to choose which background you want to display during the combats. And then for music, we're just going to have level 1 theme. Okay, so enemy waves. In a level, enemies will attack in sets or waves. So you're going to have different sets of enemies attacking. In this level, we're going to have 3 waves. And so the first wave is going to have 1 enemy. The second wave is going to have 2 enemies. And then the third wave is going to have 3 enemies. And we'll put our enemy obstinate here. So I'm going to copy his name because I'm going to put it in the rest because he's the only enemy we got so far. Alright, so now one thing you'll see is that it reorders the waves as you change the wave number. And waves will always start at 0. 0 is the first wave, and then you add 1 after that. Now you'll see here we've got level and level ability. So in order to make balancing a little bit easier, instead of having different enemies with different levels and different ability levels, remember we talked about abilities gaining levels too, you can actually set what you want these to be here in the level so that you don't have to have like a level 1 obstinate and then a level 2 obstinate. You can just set obstinate's level right here in the wave. Okay, now let's have some rewards. We'll give some XP here, so somewhere between 5 and 10 XP, 100% chance. We'll add a faith shard because everybody needs a little faith. I don't think that joke gets old. Okay, maybe it does. And that will be our level. So we just need to go back and add a little bit more information to the hero and enemy we created, and then we'll be ready to hook things up with the example scenes. So go to Heroes and Kris. Kris is already up here. So we're going to go with, we'll talk about the animation list, EXP lists, and the ability list now. So the animation list, animations, they can be used for, you can add your own animations for running or walking in different directions, jumping, and basically the non-ability animations that, so the abilities, we're going to handle those later. But anything else you can put here, and then you can track the animations and what the names of the animations are here in this list. So the key is the name of the animation that the combat engine will use to address the animation. The name is the actual name of the animation in the game object. So sometimes the game object will have a different name for its animation than what the combat engine will expect. And so here's where you can abstract it out so that you don't have to change the name in the game object. So here, in our game object, we have start idle is the name of the animation, so we're going to rename it to start idle here. So sound effect and response time, we'll get into those a little bit later when we talk about abilities. Okay, so EXP list, we're going to add our DPS EXP list here. And abilities, we're going to add the basic attack. We do put in the space because we have we named our ability with the space. We're not going to have any requirements on this ability. You can, if you don't want the hero to access the ability at level 1, then you can set the requirements here. But we're going to make this unlocked. We're going to set the animation to start ability 1. And this is the actual name of the animation in the game object. And then the sound effect is going to be sword sound. And again, this is the actual name of the sound clip that you want to play when this ability is used. Response time. So response time is kind of interesting. When you have animations where you have your attacker and he does his animation, and then you have the target and you want to do like a hurt animation. And let's say the attacker's animation has some kind of a wind up where he won't actually attack the target until half a second into the animation. Now, it'll look kind of weird to have the target getting hurt before the attacker even does his attack, right? So you can have the response time here set so that when the attacker actually does the attack in the animation, the target will do the hurt animation. So that way it looks a little bit more realistic. We're just going to set that as 0 for our game right now. Okay, graphic name, basic attack. So here, no space in basic attack. All right. And so this, remember, actually goes to the ability icon that we're going to hook up to with the front end. Okay. Next, enemies. Obstinate. Good. Okay, we'll put him on the DPS EXP list as well. And we'll give him the basic attack. Space, basic attack. Go all the way over here. His animation's going to be start ability 1 and sword sound. Now, enemies don't need ability icons because they won't be shown to the player, so we can leave this as blank. All right. So that takes us through our initial content that we can use to test our game using the example scenes and scripts. Let's save the content to the text files in the streaming assets folder. So click the save button here. And here it says done saving data. And now let's click play to end the scene. So before we can check out what the content looks like so far, we need to hook up a few things. Open up the loading scene. So this is in RPG Script Kit, Scenes, Loading. Alright, now in the hierarchy pane, we click the data loader here. And let's see, so we're going to start over on this. Okay, so go ahead and we're going to delete that data loader and we're going to put in our own. So go to RPG Script Kit Prefabs and move the data loader in there. Okay. So you'll notice that this has a few settings and then a few arrays, and I'm going to talk about those. Reset XP on level up means when the hero levels up, the experience resets to 0. If unchecked, then experience will not reset to 0. We'll leave it checked. Next, reset level on upgrade. This goes with the upgrade type variable. If you want the RPG style where upgrading to the next tier unlocks the next set of levels, then check reset level on upgrade and set the upgrade type to upgrade unlocks max levels. The other style is where upgrading the hero provides attribute bonuses. To set up this way, uncheck level on upgrade and set the upgrade type to upgrade multiplies attributes. And that's what we're going to be doing in this game. So we'll also keep the use store init file checked. You can uncheck this when you have code in place to download the store from something like a database on the cloud. And we'll also enable load prints. This will allow us to see what's going on and if there are any errors that we made while creating our content. Now the arrays. Oh, one more thing actually. The combat receiver. This refers to experience. So who gets the experience for combat rewards? And so you can set this to the player gets the experience, the heroes get the experience, or both the players and the hero get the experience. We'll leave this as the player. Now we're going to connect up the content using these arrays. So hopefully you've built your folder structure similar to mine, or you may get a little lost. We'll go into our prefabs folder here, and we can see all of the different assets that I've created here. So let's open up character prefabs, and we'll go to characters first. Let's see, data loader. Okay, so here we see that we've got our 4 characters. So we'll set the size to 4, drag and drop each one in. There we go. Now let's move on to the item icons. Okay, we've got 3. Spirit Essence, Spirit Shard, and Sure Shot Bow. Next up are ability icons. And we have 7. So let's set these up. Okay, here's our basic attack. Notice the basic attack, and actually all of these do not have spaces. So whether you choose to have spaces or not for these files, you need to remember so that you can hook up the content correctly. Okay, next are status effects. So let's go here. And it looks like I forgot to create the status effect prefabs. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we can just do this real simply by dragging it over here to the hierarchy pane. Go back to our prefabs, status effects folder. Then we just drag them in here. And Unity will automatically create prefabs for these icons. We'll delete them from the scene and connect it up. There we go. Portraits. Got 2 portraits. Now these are GUI component, or these are the Unity GUI text components that I have here. So if your front end uses something different, then you'll need to make sure that your prefabs match with what your front end expects. But here we're using the GUI text components. Okay. Now the music clips, these aren't prefabs but actual music clips. So let's create the size first. Put it in here, see audio clip. And then sound effects. We have 9 sound effects. So we got the ladies, we got the men, and we got the orcs. And then okay. So you'll also see here that we have main game scene. This is the scene that will be loaded once the data loader has completed importing all of the content. So once everything is done loading, we're going to go to this scene right here. And since this is what we've already got from our examples folder, the example scene, we don't need to change it. The player data location. Let's see. This will determine the location to save all of the player-specific data like the levels, or like the hero levels or the player level. If you have a database and code in place to store all of that information, and you want to like download or upload it onto the cloud, then you can set this to other. And then you can use the APIs for getting the information. You can check out the manual. It's got all of the information. You can create a string with all of the key value data pairs, which are very convenient for databases, and get that going. But we'll leave it as player prefs for this game. Now next, we're going to go to the prefabs folder here, and we're actually going to take our data loader and make another prefab out of it. So this will allow us to reuse it in the main scene and other scenes so that we can load directly to it. So let's save the loading scene. Go to RPG script kit. Let me close this. So RPG script kit, examples, scenes, and we're going to go to the main scene. So here, the only thing that we need to do is change the resources up a bit. You can see that we have 2 resources that we display here, but we've got 3 resources in our game. So we're actually going to create a new resource here that we can view. We'll call it res2 text. Resource 2. This is just to show it in the scene here. All right. So now we're going to give the names here. So we'll start off with SP. These are the names of the resources, the name that you provided, IP, and energy. Okay. So that's all we need to do to set up the main scene. Although there is one more thing. Let's delete this data loader, and we're going to put in the data loader that we created a prefab of. Okay. Now, lastly, we're going to set up the combat scene. So go back to RPG script kit, examples, and scenes, combat. So here in the combat controller, we have all of the different backgrounds that we can display while the player is in their combat. So it starts off with 0. We're going to add in a couple backgrounds here that we made, and normally you'll want to let me rename them here so it'll match. So background 1 and background 2. So normally you'll want this to fit so that it'll fit the whole screen. Just for interest of time, I'm going to leave them as they are. But we will go to the combat controller and backgrounds. So we have 2 backgrounds, and we don't use these, we use the game objects. So we drag and drop the game objects into the list here. And so these backgrounds will be chosen based on the level the character is playing. This is the background that we have, that we set up in the actual level. Alright, so now let's test out what we have so far. So let's save, and we go back to RPG script kit, scenes, loading. And we're going to click the play button. Now, if there's any errors parsing any of the files, we'll see them in the console. So it looks like we have 1 error. Let's take a look. Okay, not enough parameters for reward at line 6. So let's go ahead and stop this here, and let's go ahead and fix our fix our error. So this is in the City of Destruction level list. So that means something with the level line. So let's load up our resources, go back to level lines, City of Destruction. See what we've got here. Item, shard, spirit, essence, and faith. Here we go. So we have a problem here. We have a min of 3 and a max of 1. That's not going to work very well. We'll set that right. So we have a min of 1 and a max of 3. Okay, so let's save it. Go back to loading. And we completed with 0 errors. So now we're greeted with Kris, and he's giving us his dialogue, his whole terrible where do I turn routine. So you click to advance the dialogue, and we've got Evan. Now you can see here that Evan is the active speaker. It looks like he's kind of highlighted a little bit, but it's just that Kris was grayed out. Now one other thing that you'll notice is that it's displaying IP and energy here over on top of each other. So one of the things we can do is go back and move this around so that it all looks nice and neat. I'm going to leave it as it is for purposes of this tutorial and the time. So, we have an error. So it looks like we didn't assign our game controller the data loader. So let's end this, go back to the main scene, get you guys some live debug here. We go to the game controller, and here, the data loader here, we forgot to put our data loader into our game controller. So the game controller is one of the example scripts that's provided for the front end. And in this implementation, it requires a link to the data loader. So we did that. So let's save it. Go back to scenes, loading, and play it. All right, there we go. And all right, so now we've got our dialogue and everything's there. So let's go ahead and check out, maybe I'll just really quickly change this. Okay. Just so that it looks better. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll do that later. Okay, so now we can see we've got 100 SP, 25 IP, and our 50 energy. No XP, and the player is at level 1. Let's view the heroes. So we've got Kris, and you can see that he's level 1, tier 1. We've got all of his attributes. We've got his equipment. He doesn't have any equipment. Here's his ability, the basic attack. So we can see that we've got deal damage to an enemy, and then because abilities can get levels, here it shows the requirements to get to the next level. Let's check out the store. All right, so let's give him a sure shot bow. Yeah, that's nice. We got that featured, so let's purchase it. Yes. View heroes, Kris. All right, so let's equip it. And there we go. So we've got our sure shot bow. Now let's go check out the levels. So we've got our level line, the City of Destruction. So it costs 5 energy to play. Now we set up our party. So we add Kris and start battle. We made one more mistake. I forgot to load the combat scene to the game. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay. Examples, scenes, combats. So file, build settings, add open scenes. All right. Okay. Let's go back to, you know what, let's go to main and we will fix that resource once and for all. Let's put it here. We'll put this over here. And it's not quite the same, but hey, it's good enough. It's good enough, right? Right? Okay. Let's go back to RPG script kit scenes and we get to loading. And let's load this up. Test out our combat. Alright. So view levels, City of Destruction, energy. Okay. Start battle. Here we go. We got our enemy over here on the left, our hero over here on the right. And one of the things I didn't think about, I'm going to change this because we need to be able to see their HP. So we'll set this so we can see. There we go. That's much better. Now I've got the music going through in my headset, so I'm not sure if this will capture the music being played. But here you can see that this is the level that or the background that we chose for this level. And they both have 20 health, and we have the speed here. So once the speed gets to the max, then it's going to roll over, and it's that hero's turn. So we've got our basic attack, so let's use it. Alright. There we go. So it looks like we missed, and they dealt a bunch of damage. There. And we were defeated. Okay, so maybe we need to balance our level a little bit. Alright, so we can do that balancing, and then we can do that a little later. All right, so this is going to end our little bit of a whirlwind tour here. We're going to go through, and now I'm going to show you how to use the method of modifying the text files directly to create content faster. So let's go ahead and close. So here in the assets, we're going to show in Explorer. Now, some of the content is saved in files, and some of it is saved in folders. I'm not going to go over every single file and folder, but you can read more about them in the manual. All right. So first, we're going to create some new XP lists. So go into that folder, and we're going to take the DPS EXP list, copy, paste, and we're going to rename it to Tank EXP list. We're going to paste it again, and we're going to rename it to Enemy EXP lists. Okay, so let's open up the Tank EXP list, and we're just going to open it up in Notepad. That's fine. Okay, so tanks have more health, so we're going to give this guy 30 health. Actually, I guess it's going to be the girl. It's Faith. Faith is a girl. So Faith doesn't do as much damage, but she can take the damage, giving her armor and resist. We'll give her 15 strength, 10 heart. We'll give her 10 health per level. So crit chance, so less damage, 2 armor per level, 0.5 armor pen, 2 resist, 0.5 resist pen. Alright, and 1 heart and 3 strength. Alright, and important, we need to change the name of the EXP list, or things will get confusing. So this is the tank EXP list. Alright, a lot faster than creating it from scratch in the GUI. Now let's do the enemy. Now we want to make the enemy easy to beat because I like easy enemies. So we're just going to give him 5 health. He's going to have 10% crit chance with an extra 10% damage, 1 armor, 1 armor pen, 1 resist pen, and we're just going to give him 10, 10, 10. So we'll give him 3 health per level, 1% crit, 1% mult, 1 armor, 1 pen, 1 armor, 1 resist, 1 pen, and then 1, 1, 1. So you can use this to try and balance out your enemies. We also need to change the name again. Don't forget to change the name. Enemy EXP list. Okay. Now lastly, we need to add these new lists to the master list. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste two new entries, 1 for tank and 1 for enemy. Good. Next, we're going to create some more abilities. So open up the abilities file. Again, we just open it up in Notepad. We're going to create 2 abilities. So we're going to make wide swing, and it's going to be an AoE attack. So that's going to be all enemies plural, and it's going to have a cooldown of 4 turns. So it's going to do damage to all enemies. On hit, 75% chance to attack, but it's going to do a little bit less than the basic attack. It's going to be 7 damage with a variance of 2. So somewhere between 5 and 9 points of damage. So this is going to be deal damage to all enemies. Alright, we'll change this to wide swing. Next ability will be baiting attack. So we'll have a space here, and this is also going to be a single enemy. The cooldown, we'll have the cooldown 3. So it's going to do some damage. So a single target or single enemy, 75% chance. That looks good. Except we're going to have it do less damage. So it's going to be 5 damage with a variance of 1. So deal damage for baiting attack. Now we're also going to make another effect. So this ability is going to have 2 effects. The effect is going to be taunt on self. So this means that whoever uses this ability is going to taunt the enemies, meaning that all of the enemies are forced to attack the hero that used this ability. And this is going to be on hit, but this is going to happen regardless, so we don't need to have an apply chance. No damage, no variance, and force opponents to attack this character. This is baiting attack. Baiting. Okay. One other thing is we will change the attribute for wide swing to be heart. So since this is going to be a DPS ability and heart is a DPS attribute, we want our DPS ability to be improved by DPS attributes. So that's 25% of heart will be added on to the damage. Alright, so that's our abilities. Now, we're going to create a new hero. We are going to create Faith. So let's copy Kris and paste him. So Faith, let's open her up. Okay, let's change her name. Here, we change her game object to Faith. And her start tier is going to be 0. So if the player wants to use Faith in combat, then the player is going to need to start getting Faith shards. Alright, we're going to make her a tank. So she's got her tank EXP list. And copy and paste the basic attack. And we're going to use, she's got her baiting attack. Going to use this here. We're not going to change any of the rest of those, except we will change the icon. All right. So there we have Faith. Now we also need to update Kris. So we're going to go in here and we're going to add on his new ability. Wide swing. Interesting how a bow wielder would be swinging his bow around, but hey, whatever works, right? Alright, so wide swing, and that'll be ability 1, sword sound. Okay, again, why he's using a sword sound for his bow is anybody's guess, but if it scares the enemies, then let's do it. Okay, the last thing we need to do is add Faith to the hero list. Okay. Now let's go back to streaming assets and we're going to update the enemy, Obstinate. So he will no longer be using the DPS EXP list. He's got his own EXP list. And one other thing is we need to change his idle animation because that wasn't working when we last saw the combat. Alright, we save him, exit, and now we're going to create a level. Well, we've already created levels. We're just going to go in here and check it out. Okay, so this is the level that we created before, level 1. So we've got basic information about the level, we've got the waves and the rewards. Let's check out level 2. Yeah, that's not going to work. So let's go ahead. So here's what we need to do. Copy everything, paste it over. Alright, and to make it look different, we'll use background 2. And that's all we have to do to make these new levels. Again, if you actually want to make new levels, then you can go into the level line list here and add those in. But you can check out the manual for how to do that. All right. So we've just added a bunch of content very quickly by changing the data files directly. Let's see what happens in the game. All right, we're importing the assets. So let's you know what? Let's go into the combat team. There's one other thing that I want to fix, just because I'm kind of a perfectionist. These backgrounds here. So I said that we weren't going to be doing anything because it didn't matter, but it actually does matter because we need to be able to see our health. Because if we can't see our health, then what are we doing? I don't know what we're doing. We're having fun. That's what we're doing. We're having fun making games. That's what we're doing here. Okay, so we fixed this in the combat scene. Let's go to RPG Script Kit, Scenes, Loading. So let's see if we made any typos in our copying and pasting. Nope, looks good so far. 0 errors. So a couple things to note. There's no dialogue. We set it to occur once, and it only occurred once. Also, we spent our energy. So we did what, 2? And since then we've gained 4 energy. So the way that the game engine works here is even when the player's not in the game, these these resources that increment over time will continue to increment, so that when the player goes back into the game, it will be at the value to where if they had been in the game all along. All right, so we made the changes. Let's go ahead and check out heroes. Oh, and here's Faith right here. But now when I click on her, I can't view her because she isn't unlocked yet. Let's check out Kris, and here we've got our wide swing. So we click on it, and we can see, yeah, all enemies deal damage to all enemies. And here we go. Okay, let's check out the combat that we changed. So we go to City of Destruction, the level, and notice also that Kris is saved in the party. He's not back over in the hero list. So this is actually can be a very good quality of life improvement for the player. The kit will actually save party configurations on a per level line basis. This will allow the players, to figure out optimal party setups for different types of levels. So if you have one level line where one party configuration is good, and another level line where a different party configuration works best, then the kit will keep track of both of those saved party configurations, so that the player doesn't have to keep remembering which party configuration was best for which level line. Alright, so let's start the battle here. Okay, so notice that wide swing is not available yet because, as we saw earlier, it's still locked. So in order to unlock it, we need to do the requirements. We need to satisfy the requirements. All right. So one of the other things that the kit supports is an auto fight, and so this. Let's go ahead and click this here. So this will actually use the artificial intelligence on the heroes, and so this can be a good thing. So that if you have a lot of if you want the player to replay levels for different rewards, then they can just do the auto fight so that they don't have to do it every single time. Now it looks like we still need to do a little bit of balancing, but things are a lot better now. So if there's enough interest, then I'll be creating another video to explain some of the more advanced concepts, like how to make abilities get better as the player levels them up. Until then, I encourage you guys to go through the manual and find out. The manual is very good. It's 34 pages that documents all of the features. Also, you can feel free to contact me with any questions or issues you may have. And thank you for watching this video, and I wish you luck on developing your role-playing game. Please like and subscribe. Kris out.